All right, that music always gets me fired up. My name is Brian Anthony Davis. I am here live on not only the Steel Curtain Network, but the Mile High Broncos Network as well. So we are here. What are we doing here? We're not normally on here. We are on your Fans First Sports Network affiliate. Make sure you check that out for all of your National Football League needs. Lots of great shows on there, but this is the Fans First Football Show. You do have the opportunity to hear it every once in a while on Mile High Broncos, on Broad Street LinkedIn, on Foxborough Frenzy as well. This is going to be the first time here on the Steel Curtain Network. We are here because the Steelers were off this week. Well, they weren't off this week. They played off this week, but they went ahead and they played on Christmas Day. Well, a reasonable facsimile, and the Broncos did a reasonably facsimile of sucking as well against the Cincinnati Bengals. I could say that one first down, Jess. One first down.
That's all we needed. That's all we needed.
Yes, and we did it. So let me introduce Jess Place from Mile High Broncos. He is one of the regular co-hosts on this show, along with Aiden Reed from Broad Street LinkedIn. He is somewhere in a car celebrating the essence of Kenny Pickett somewhere, as he is the only one of us that had his team win this week. Nick Hogan's here as well from Foxborough Frenzy. And Nick, is that a new background?
It is. It's a little bit of a mix-up. Obviously, we got to go into the new year with new feelings of euphoria around this team that is just garbage. So, yay!
Your team lost yesterday, but your team won today by a lot of teams winning and not yours. So right now, the New England Patriots have the number one pick in the draft. So here we go. They're on the clock until they screw it up next week against the Buffalo Bills, Hogan.
Oh, let's not talk about it. Let's just hope for the best and find a way to not screw this up like we screwed up the rest of the season.
Well, that'll be fun to happen. So this is a little bit different look for those of you here on the Fans First Sports Network here, or also following Steel Curtain Network, following Mile High Broncos. I know we are live here going. And if you're wondering why this is so different, because we're not, even though we're fans of the show, it's a little different mix because we're talking about every single Week 17 game here. Unfortunately, even the Christmas Day games that I don't want to talk about, but I have to be objective, and I will. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about every single game that's happened, with the exception of the games that haven't happened, and that is this Sunday night game. And that is, correct me if I'm wrong, that's not San Francisco, Detroit. That's the Monday night game. It's Washington. And who's Washington taking on, Hogan?
Atlanta.
That's right. I knew all about that, and then I realized that I didn't care. But I should, because we are objective here on the Fans First Football Show. So, Gentlemen, should we get into this?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. We are going to start at the beginning of the week. We don't normally do this, but there were a lot of games this week that were not on Sunday. So we have a lot to cover. We're going to start with Thursday, and we're going to do this one really quick, Nick Hogan. Steelers 10, the Chiefs 29, ruined my Christmas.
Yeah, this one was kind of tough, obviously, for Steeler Nation out there. I apologize for you guys. It was not pretty from the get-go. Patrick Mahomes looked like his normal self on Christmas this day, throwing for 320 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had himself a phenomenal day. Travis Kelce, of course, made an appearance as well. 8 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown, along with Xavier Worthy, who's having a nice little rookie season there, 79 yards and a touchdown. On the Steelers side, Russell Wilson just could not get it going. Threw for 205 yards, but an interception in there, and I think he had a costly fumble as well, if I'm not mistaken. The run game, Najee Harris had a little bit of a decent day, 74 yards on 13 carries, but again, too little, too late for the Steelers, trying to make their way to come back in this game, and now lost 3 straight, limping their way into the playoffs, but Kansas City locking up that number 1 seed. They look dangerous.
I think that fumble was the week before, so don't mix up our suckiness. Or maybe I'm just, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Jess, who did you root for in this game? Because I know you abhor Russell Wilson. You abhor the Chiefs. What were you feeling here?
Well, I was rooting for the Chiefs because I was not so certain that the Broncos would beat Cincinnati, and so I was rooting for scrubs in Week 18 when the Broncos take on the Chiefs. I was hoping that the Chiefs would have it all wrapped up, ready to go, and they took care of business, and it looks like the Broncos will get the scrubs next week.
So you're feeling dirty is basically what you're telling me.
I've been rooting for the Raiders lately. I just, blowing up that draft position is giving me new life.
And they did so today. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The Steelers had, if you ask me, their worst performance of the season. This is a game, the games that they lost, I felt like they were in every single one of them. After they had a touchdown called back early on in this game, it was just a mess. They were never back in it. So just a pure disappointment. They have one more week to get things right, but they still have punched their ticket to the playoffs. Let's go to another game with two playoff teams, two teams that have clinched, but one looked like contenders, one looked worse than pretenders. They looked like dudes pretending to be pretenders. It was the Houston Texans at home. The best performance of the day was Beyonce, and I thought that sucked. Ravens 31, Texans 2.
Yeah, this game was absolutely a drubbing from the get-go, where you thought Houston was going to try and get back into it when they got the safety there by some miraculous miracle, taking down Derrick Henry in the end zone to get their 2 points. The only 2 points they scored all day, so nothing to talk about on the offensive side of the ball for the Houston Texans. However, for the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson was phenomenal. 10 for 15, 168 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, adding another 87 yards and a touchdown. But Derrick Henry won himself the day there on Christmas. 27 carries, 147 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, his only mishap getting tackled in the end zone for the safety, but Baltimore is getting hot at the right time, and Houston, again, just struggling against good teams.
Jess, in this game, I watched Lamar Jackson in this game, and I'm thinking that he could go ahead and repeat as MVP, but there's Josh Allen out there. How much did Lamar Jackson raise his stock, though, in this game?
It was an impressive performance for sure. I think it's going to come down to next week, and it might be Lamar again. Josh Allen had another good day today, so it's still a 2-horse race, and I'm not ready to call it just yet.
Hogan, if you are the Steelers, the Chargers, or the Broncos, or maybe even the Bengals. Well, not the Bengals, because they cannot get that 5th seed. But the Steelers and Broncos and the Chargers can get that seed. You don't mind playing in Houston. That's probably a pretty good draw, wouldn't you say?
At this point, with the injuries they've piled up there between Stephon Diggs being out and Tank Dell as well, it's certainly the lesser of the evils that you have to face in the first round of the playoffs. Again, not a team I would take lightly because they surprised a lot of people last year with what they were able to do. But at this point, with the way the injuries are piling up for them, Houston is definitely the least dangerous out of the division winners at this point.
All right, let's go to Thursday right now. The Kraken 6, the Blackhawks 3. Oh, please excuse me. Sorry. I meant the Mariners 6, the White Sox 3. Oh, no, it was the Seahawks 6, the Bears 3, but yawn.
Yeah, this game was absolutely, oh gosh, I'm embarrassed to say that I sat there and I watched the whole thing. But at the end of the day, the Seahawks get it done. It was a kicker's dream to be out there on the field because they were the only ones that got any scoring done. Geno Smith did not look great. 160 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Caleb Williams is just having himself a rough outing for a rookie year. 122 yards and an interception, but no run game to speak of for either side. No real receiving for either side. Like I said, it was a kicker's dream, but every football fan's worst nightmare to sit there and watch this drubbing on Thursday night. Seahawks get it done. Chicago is just looking forward to the draft at this point.
Jess, would have you rather watched hockey in this game?
I would have watched anything other than this. And in fact, I did. I watched everything else but this.
Yeah. You were watching the Food Network, probably.
Anything. Eye surgery. I'll watch it. This a 6-3 game. Think of all the things you could have done with your time
If he could have scheduled a colonoscopy, I think he would have, because it was probably more entertaining. Now, I digress. The Seahawks have been a very interesting team this year. They have probably been a very big Jekyll and Hyde team, but they still have an opportunity next week to make the playoffs and win that division, get a home playoff game by beating the Rams, who are an upcharge team right now. But Hogan, I got to say, they're still in it, and it's really interesting to see.
They are, but I think it was an extremely uphill battle for them at this point, where the Rams took care of business, which I know we'll get to a little bit later on. But I think Seattle's another one of those teams that it would have been a nice story if they had made it. Again, I don't think they would have gone far in the postseason had they made it at this point, or like you said, potentially still make it. But the potential is always there. It's like I said, it's a nice story with Geno Smith and a rookie coach. We'll see what they can do going forward.
Just the answer is not Bo Nix. If you had an opportunity to redraft and you are either the Bears or last year's Carolina Panthers, are you taking Bryce Young or are you taking Caleb Williams?
I think Caleb Williams still has some upside. I think the Carolina Panthers have pretty much ruined Bryce Young at this point. I think Caleb has a shot. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with Pete Carroll? Like, I mean, if he comes to Chicago, great things are going to happen with Caleb Williams. It really comes down to who replaces Eberflus. I mean, Caleb has the potential still to do well. And I'm willing to look forward to seeing what happens with leadership in Chicago in order to see what happens with Caleb.
All right, let's move to Saturday. The team not ready for prime time. They beat the bad teams. They lose to the good teams. They beat a bad team. It's the Chargers. They are now 10-6. They have clinched a playoff spot, 40-7 over the Patriots, Hogan.
Yeah, who would have known if you actually went out and got a competent coach, you'd have a decent team on your hands with Harbaugh and the Chargers the way that they did this year. Unfortunately for my Patriots, they just look more abysmal every week as it goes on. They look like they were a little bit competent against the Bills the week before, but then the Chargers came to town and blew the socks off the New England Patriots. Justin Herbert was just phenomenal, just was untouched, didn't even have anything to worry about. 281 yards and 3 touchdowns. The run game was pretty decent as well. J.K. Dobbins, 76 yards and a touchdown. And then through the air, Ladd McConkey, 8 catches, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns there. He was just absolutely a beast. And he actually did better than any Patriots receiver pretty much did all season in that one game against them. So obviously the Chargers are rolling at the right time. On the Patriots side, just abysmal. I won't sit here and go through the stats because I'm sure nobody wants to hear it. But like you said, we locked up the number 1 seed as of right now, which I'm sure we'll find a way to screw up at some point.
We talked about 6 or 7 weeks ago, the most dangerous team in the league could possibly be the Cincinnati Bengals, but the Chargers went and lost to them, but they seem pretty dangerous right now too, Jess.
Yeah, the Chargers are getting hot late in the season, which is kind of the antithesis to who they've been pretty much their entire existence. So that's a little alarming. Going into the playoffs, watching the Chargers is going to be kind of, dare I say, a treat. I mean, they could get hot and make a run. They're dangerous for sure.
Let me ask you this though. Where would they be without Ladd McConkey? I think that is the biggest reason for their success the last few weeks.
Yeah. I mean, even the announcers in that game, they were falling all over themselves. I mean, even at just how rare the name McConkey is. I mean, they could not get enough Ladd McConkey, and yeah, he's been a major contributor.
Just like the Broncos in 1986 had way too much of Phil McConkey in that Super Bowl.
I don't remember a Super Bowl that year. It just my memory stops at the AFC Championship, and that's it. So
Let's go to that team that I'm already hearing from my Steeler fans that hate the Bengals, but you've got to believe that at 8-8 and a team that was at 4-8, won 4 straight, you have to believe that they are dangerous with that combination. And it wasn't even Jamar Chase yesterday. It was T. Higgins, Hogan, 30-24 in overtime, Cincinnati over Denver.
Yeah, unfortunately for Jess, this game was absolutely insane to the membrane, all the way down to the last seconds of overtime there, where obviously, like I said, Joe Burrow has just been on another planet this year when he's trying to get this team into the playoffs at this point. They're still not out of it, which is crazy to say for a team that was 4-8 at one point. The Cincinnati Bengals, like you said, taking care of business in overtime against the Broncos. Burrow, 39 for 49, 412 yards and 3 touchdowns. All 3 of those touchdowns to T. Higgins, who had himself a day, 11 catches, 131 yards. Jamar Chase, even though he didn't get the touchdowns, the receptions were there and the yards were there. 9 catches for 102 yards. There were some really good numbers on the Denver side as well, though. Bo Nix, 219 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception there. Marvin Mims Jr., 8 catches, 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. Cortland Sutton, possibly the catch of the game there, 55 yards and 1 amazing touchdown that sent it to overtime, obviously. But what a game all the way down to the end. When Cincinnati doinked that field goal, everybody was going nuts and thought that this was it was going to come down to the wire. And then Cincinnati found a way to pull it out. So we'll see what happens going forward.
Jess, what's going through Denver fans' heads right now? Because this is a team that has played very well in the second half. They have played good football overall. They're getting more than a lot of people thought they were going to get out of Bo Nix. It looks like they have a franchise quarterback, but is it just the year that they put things together? That defense is phenomenal.
I think that they have gotten better too fast. That's my opinion. They are not prepared for the stress of a playoff run. They don't have the personnel. Like, they have been able to put things together, and that is awesome. However, it could not come together against the Bengals. They went for it a couple times on 4th down, and the Broncos got a stop, and they weren't able to do anything with it. The field goal that bounced off the post, they weren't able to do anything with that. They were afforded opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and they just could not capitalize on any of it. And they had some great receptions by Marvin Mims, and that was outstanding. I mean, it was kind of a fun game, like especially in like the 4th quarter, but not being able to get a first down in overtime to seal the tie. You didn't even need to score; you just needed to run out the clock with 2 minutes left to go. We couldn't do it, so the Bengals ended up winning. They're still alive in the playoff hunt. Thankfully, we are playing the Chiefs 3rd stringers next week, so I think we might get it done.
Andy Reid does have a history of that, so that's interesting. I would love to see them knock the Bengals out. Now, I'm going to ask for a one-word answer from both of you because some people are disagreeing with me. I think the Bengals are dangerous. I know the Steelers play the Bengals next week. Yes or no, Hogan? Is this team dangerous?
Yes.
Jess?
Lethal. Yeah, very.
All right. So let's keep it going. There's one more game before we take a break. We're going to finish Saturday. Boy, I tell you what, those NFC West teams, they like defense, I guess. The Rams, 13. The Cardinals, 9. The Rams, they are ready for a division title. They are this close after starting out 1-4. They are now 9-2 in their last 11 games. That is absolutely incredible. What did they run into for this to be a rough week, though, Hogan?
They ran into a fired up Arizona defense that really did not want to let them go into the playoffs, feeling good about themselves. And Arizona, to their credit, being eliminated the way they were the week prior, played their hearts out, tried everything they could to win this game right down to the very end. Unfortunately, Kyler Murray threw a late interception that cost the Cardinals the game and let the Rams wrap up the game. Kyler Murray did what he could, 321 yards through the air, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Like I said, one of those ones being a costly one. On the ground, James Conner, I believe, left the game with an injury, if I'm not mistaken. Michael Carter taking over duties there, 13 carries, 70 yards. But through the air, Trey McBride had probably his best game of the season, 123 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. And Marvin Harrison Jr. had himself a day, 6 catches and 96 yards. On the Rams side, there really wasn't anything too crazy because Matthew Stafford did not have himself a normal Matthew Stafford day, only 189 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Puka Nacua, though, 10 catches, 129 yards, picking up the slack there where Cooper Kupp did pretty much nothing in this game. Puka is the real deal, and the Rams are certainly dangerous at this point.
The Rams are dangerous, but they look like they would run into a team like the Packers. We saw the Packers falter today, Jess, even though they did try to flourish at the end. They did try to come back. Are the Rams just pretenders? Are they kidding themselves here? Or do you really think that they could surprise some people?
The Rams kind of hit me the same way as the Houston Texans kind of hit me. They are a division leader. They have won some games. I think when going up against, like the NFC North, it's not going to go well. I don't see them as a force in the elite teams of the NFC.
They're most likely the 3rd seed. It looks like the AFC South is probably going to come away with a 4th seed, if I'm not mistaken. You guys could correct me on that if I am incorrect on that. I do like what I see of the Rams, but what I saw today from those NFC North teams, even the ones that were losing, the Packers, I got to tell you, I'd be shocked if an NFC North team is not in the AFC Championship game. I can't imagine it not happening. I'm not going to say the Super Bowl because you still have Aiden Reed's Philadelphia Eagles in there. Gentlemen, let's go ahead and take a break. We are going to, we have a full slate this week, so we're going to take our first break here. We will be back right after this. This is the Fans First football show from the Fans First Sports Network, also being simulcasted on Mile High Broncos and the Steel Curtain Network this week. So we will be right back right after this. Please stick around.
Never slow. Make 'em whoa. Watch me go. Ready, set, go.
All right, we are back here on the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Brian Anthony Davis. I am here right now with Nick Hogan from Foxborough Frenzy, with Jess Place from Mile High Broncos. On assignment right now, well, actually, he's just probably driving, celebrating the Philadelphia Eagles win, is Aiden Reed from Broad Street LinkedIn, as I almost forgot that. Gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and get in to the second part of the show. But before I do that, I hope everybody had a fantastic holiday season so far, as it does continue. I hope everybody out there has had a fantastic holiday. I've got to ask you this because we are such football fans, and I know if you guys are anything like me, that when they think of you to buy you a gift, they're going to buy you something of your favorite team. Did you get any Patriots gear, Hogan?
Oh, actually, well, I got the brand new stand that you guys can see behind us. There's a glass part of it too for the Teddy Bruschi signed football, but little too reflective for the screen right now. Nice little placeholder now where I have my official Teddy Bruschi signed football for me.
So I got that very same thing, but it broke when I was trying. It was plastic. It broke when I was trying to go ahead and put it together. In fact, I will show you right here. This is part of the base. So anyways, that is going back to Amazon, and we're going to see what we can do there. So my helmet, as you can see in the background, is still bare, but that's not just it's not a Teddy Bruschi solo. It has a couple guys, Hines Ward, James Harrison, 2 guys that got snubbed, by the way, this week. Heath Miller, a lot of fun names. Jerome Bettis, you might have heard of him too. That is one of my favorite things, and I just got it back. I had a friend who was holding on to it, getting autographs for on it for me. So it's nice to have back. Jess, what did you get? Did you get Dodger stuff or did you get Bronco stuff?
Well, with the Dodgers winning the World Series this year, I got a Freddie Freeman autographed World Series baseball. So that's
pretty cool.
Deal. Yeah, I did get a Broncos calendar though, but I mean, it's like Freddie Freeman autographed baseball or an already outdated Broncos calendar. It's really a toss up.
Well, you've got to find out what you're going to be doing in February.
Right. Well, yeah. I'm just glad that Russell Wilson's not in it because these calendars are made like 2 years in advance before they.
I tell you what, there's some Steeler fans right now that are hoping Russell Wilson is not on the 2025 calendar as well. I am. I still am. I'm still firmly behind Russ, and which that's going to open up a whole can of worms here on the. On the comment section, which I guess I should probably bring back up. I was trying not to, though. I've lost it there. Here we go. So go ahead. Let's actually we do have a question here, and not really bringing up questions, but I want to bring this up. My good friend Dennis Pavlik asked, "Is Jared Mayo going to be fired, Hogan?"
I don't believe he's going to be fired. Does he deserve to? Absolutely, he does. Unfortunately, I think Robert Kraft is a very proud owner. And by proud, I mean he's prideful, where he doesn't like to admit mistakes. And I think he's going to let the leash go a little bit longer, to the dismay of myself and many Patriot fans. But he is so in over his head and incompetent that it is mind-blowing that Mayo is still the coach of this team. It's awful.
Jess, you are not to be left out of this too. Our good friend Brian Brown, who's very famous for the phrase "Joe Burrow can kiss it," asks this question here: does Jess like the current Denver uniforms or the old school ones? You know my answer to that one.
I like the 80s uniforms the best, but
those are my favorite.
Uniforms are a nice refresh. Yeah, it's kind of cool how they brought in the lines of the logo into the sleeve, and I think that the away white jerseys are some of the best we've ever had. I think they look really good.
But that logo on your hat is still my absolute favorite. I will tell you that. First and foremost, I love it. Mr. Woodside says old school from 70s and 80s. I absolutely
100%
agree. So let's go ahead and let's go to Sunday now. We are back into week 17. It was a very interesting week 17 to me, as I feel like there was separation. The haves and have-nots. It seemed like there was separation. That the teams trying to say that they were a have proved to be a have-not today. It's a team you saw recently, Jess, on your Broncos schedule. Giants 45, Colts 33. The Colts are officially eliminated.
This was an absolutely wild game, if you ask me, because if you told me before that New York was going to do everything they could to give up the first-round pick to beat an inept Indianapolis team, I would have told you are cracked in the head. But apparently, who wasn't cracked in the head was Drew Lock, who played at an MVP level today. It was insane to see. He finished the day 17 for 23, 309 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And a couple of those touchdowns went to a guy you might have heard of, Malik Neighbors, who had himself a day. 7 catches, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Robinson obviously getting in the action as well. 5 catches, 71 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Indianapolis, without Anthony Richardson, did their best to stay in this game there. Joe Flacco looked like himself a little bit. 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Jonathan Taylor, 32 carries, 125 yards, and 2 touchdowns. If you had those guys on your fantasy team, you're probably smiling right now. But like I said, who's not smiling is the Indianapolis Colts, who are the losers of the day, getting knocked out of the playoffs. And again, the Giants giving up the first round or the first overall pick to go 3-13.
Jess, this game. Now, I like what Hogan said, but following different teams like the Jaguars, like the Raiders, those players don't care. They're looking to win because they're trying to keep their jobs. So I am not shocked whatsoever. I probably have never disagreed with Hogan on the show. This is the one time I am going to disagree with him, because I don't think teams, the players on the field and the coaches, they want to be around next year for any draft pick They don't care where they're picking because that guy might come in and take your job.
Yeah. I think Indianapolis really kind of embarrassed themselves today. I mean, I don't know. You got Joe Flacco. Like everyone last year was getting super excited when he was the quarterback of the Browns, and I'm like, if you live by the Flacco, you die by the Flacco. And they
You've died by the Flacco before.
This is the former Broncos quarterback bowl. We got Drew Lock against Joe Flacco, and if you ask me which of the two was the better quarterback, it's Drew Lock, and he had 4 touchdowns throwing and 1 rushing, and he clearly wants to be in the league next year. Joe Flacco, I don't know what he wants.
Did Drew Lock ever get a true chance in Denver?
Yes, he did. It just never materialized. It never happened. I mean, granted, we did have like historic coaching uncertainty while he was there, and that definitely didn't help, but it never coalesced in anything that we could build on. And so
who was the better quarterback, Russell Wilson or Drew Lock? Let's move on. Okay, the team that is trying to prove that they are the best in the league, their quarterback is doing everything he can to become the MVP. It's the Buffalo Bills. I hate the Bills Mafia. I really do. I know they do great stuff for charity, but gosh, they're so obnoxious. Bills 40, Jets 14.
Well, you and I might have disagreed earlier, Brian, but we're going to disagree again because I love the Bills today, where they took down the dreaded New York Jets, who I hate more than anything. Nope.
Because they're all Ravens. They're just they're your Ravens. I get it.
It's fine. It's fine. I hate the Jets so much, and seeing them lose almost as badly as the Patriots lost just warms my heart just a little bit more. I'm like the Grinch over here. Anyway, let's get to the actual game.
Don't you feel dirty though, Nick Hogan? You got to feel a little dirty.
Hey, when Buffalo Bills, the Bills stands for boy, I love losing Super Bowls. They got to get something once in a while, okay?
I've never heard that. That's awesome.
That's what Bills stands for. Boy, I love losing Super Bowls. When you go to 4 straight and you lose 4 straight, you deserve a little bit of luck once in a while. You know who doesn't deserve the luck is the New York Jets, who I love seeing lose. Anyway, like I said, let's get to the game. Buffalo absolutely blew the doors off the Jets here. Josh Allen, 182 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Got it done on the ground as well, 17 yards and another touchdown. He is just a touchdown machine at this point. I think he broke a record. They might have broken a few records at this point. Who knows? Like you said, he's in the MVP talk for a reason there. On the New York side, there was absolutely nothing to discuss. Aaron Rodgers was abysmal. 112 yards, 2 interceptions. Actually got benched at one point for Tyrod Taylor, who got 2 touchdowns through the air where Aaron Rodgers could get nothing done. Buffalo wraps up the number 2 seed, earning a 13-3 record. New York Jets fall to 4-12, and again, looking forward to the draft.
Jess, are the Bills the best team in the AFC?
I think so. Yeah, actually, I think that they are better than the Chiefs. I think, and they're certainly better than the Texans. So, I mean, there you go. But I don't know. It makes me feel good to see Aaron Rodgers struggle as mightily as he did with his 44 quarterback rating. So, I don't know, just all that mystique and the everything that surrounded Aaron Rodgers over the last couple of years. Like, oh, is he going? Is he leaving? Is he going? Is he leaving? Oh, he's coming to Denver. No, just kidding. He's going to stay. Oh, now he's a Jet. And now his Achilles is ripped. And it's just like the drama of it all. And just to see the struggle, it's just kind of like, we can all take a breath and just realize that maybe we don't need to pay as much attention to Aaron Rodgers as Aaron Rodgers thinks.
Is he done?
He's done. Yeah.
Hogan, is he done?
I mean, I'd like to say yes, but I think New York is so dysfunctional. They're going to have to bring him back because they have nothing else to turn to at this point. They're not going to go with Tyrod Taylor.
Here's the thing. No, here's a question, because a buddy of mine was watching the game with me today, and we were watching that for a little bit, and he asked me about Aaron Rodgers, and I'm like, I don't know, because the Jets are where dreams go to die. I think they are the worst franchise that I have seen in my career as a fan. And that's over 40 years. Even when I was a kid, I could tell the Jets were a train wreck. One of my best friends in high school, and still I'm friends with him today, he loves the Jets so much and hates the Jets equally because they break his heart all the time. And I'm wondering if Aaron Rodgers was on another team, if he would be that bad.
Well, I could tell you this. If he ends up leaving the Jets, whatever team he goes to next year, if he starts for them, he's going to have a great year. Because if you look at former Jets quarterbacks, they are just prospering around the league right now. Talking about Geno Smith. I was going to say not Zach Wilson, but Sam Darnold's having himself one of his best years. And then if you go back to the same trajectory that Brett Favre took when he left the Packers, he went to the Jets for a year. He went to Minnesota and arguably had his best year ever as a pro with Minnesota when they lost in the NFC Championship. So I tell you what, whoever gets Aaron Rodgers next year, watch out. They might be dangerous.
I think there was a bounty on Brett Favre and the rest of the Vikings in that game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I think that was a bounty game.
Who would do such a thing? That's awful.
I have no clue. I'm sure. I'm sure he's a reputable coach for a reputable
team.
He's
no longer with that franchise.
Yeah, but he's with your franchise, place. Let's go ahead and move on to let's try to make this one quick. Jaguars 20, Titans 13. In 10 words or less, Hogan, go.
You're stressing me out with 10 words or less. All I can tell you, it was the backup bowl with Mason Rudolph and Mac Jones, and Mac Jones won. How about that? There's your 10 words or less.
You know what? No, let's give Mac Jones his proper due, and let's give the Jaguars their proper stats.
Well, I'll give the Jaguars their proper stats. I will not give Mac Jones any due for what he did to my franchise, but I will read what he did anyway. Mac Jones had a mediocre day, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, which is shocking to see him not throw any. Who did throw one was Mason Rudolph, along with a touchdown, 193 yards there. Tennessee falls to 3-13. Jacksonville improves to 4-12 at that point, where it is just a struggle bus division with the AFC South there if you're not named Houston.
All right, Jess, do you have anything to say about this game?
Well, when Mason Rudolph and Mac Jones square off, you just got to throw out all the references. I have nothing to say on
that. You constantly have great quotes on this show, and so humorous quotes. That might be one of your best. That's t-shirt material. All right, let's move on. The Las Vegas Raiders 25, the Saints 10. 2 weeks ago, the Raiders were in the number 1 spot, and now they're looks like they're picking around number 8 or number 9. It doesn't matter. That was a big win for this franchise, for guys trying to keep jobs for next year. 25-10 over the Saints. It's kind of shocked me, Hogan.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the Raiders are, where, like you said, they were the driver's seat for the number 1 pick for a little while there. They've won 2 in a row now, where Aiden O'Connell is starting to come into his own a little bit, and he had a decent day. 242 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Amir Abdullah also had a great day on the ground as well. 20 carries, 115 yards, no touchdowns or anything. But really, the big news of the day was Brock Bowers, again, setting more records, where I believe he broke 2 records today, that being the rookie receptions record. And then on top of that, too, broke Mike Ditka's official record of most yards by a tight end in their rookie year, which Mike Ditka has had for a bazillion years at this point.
1961.
Yeah, absolutely crazy.
14 games. There was
14 games.
Yeah,
and that's the impressive part is the fact that Brock Bowers is doing that, and Mike Ditka had that record as long as he did. But on the Saints side, Spencer Rattler again, struggles in his debut there. 218 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. The Saints are definitely going to be looking for answers going into the offseason with the head coaching position, and then if Derek Carr is going to come back as well. So 2 teams that are going to be on the up and up looking at next year with the draft and everything to try and get back on the winning path.
Jess, the only thing I've got to ask you here, because I know that you love the fact that the Raiders won because you hate them so much, and it's all about, so we're not going to talk about that. Is Spencer Rattler Patrick Mahomes' illegitimate son?
Yeah. It seems that he very much.
He looks like him, doesn't he? Doesn't he look like he?
A little bit. It's a little creepy. Yeah.
I just thought I'd bring that up. One thing to say about the Raiders, I've got to give Amir Abdullah props, like you did. 141 games in the NFL. never had a 100-yard rushing game. He had close to 150 all-purpose yards. And actually, he did have right around 150 and maybe a little bit over, but just really impressive. This guy has been playing hard. They have not had a 100-yard rusher all season in Las Vegas. Abdullah with a fantastic game. It was a shame that he got hurt at the end of that game as well. But, good on the Raiders getting that win. So let's keep on going. We don't want to spend too much time on a team with a combined 9 wins. So let's talk about a team with a combined 13 wins. A game with two teams. Shut up, Ryan. Buccaneers 48, Panthers 14. If you were against Baker Mayfield in your fantasy championship game today, he ruined your lives. Hogan?
Yeah, well, Baker Mayfield usually likes to ruin my life because for those that know me, I am a diehard Texas Longhorn fan, and I can't stand Baker Mayfield. And he decided to have his best day of the year today on Championship Sunday for all of us in fantasy land, including yours truly, who went against him. So I despise him. But that being said, I still got to read what he did. He threw for 359 yards and 5 freaking touchdowns. It was unbelievable. Not to be outdone on the ground as well. Bucky Irving, 20 carries, 113 yards. And the receiving department, Mike Evans is back to his old self. 8 catches, 97 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jalen McMillan getting in the action as well. 51 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. And then on the Panthers side, there is not much to talk about. Like we talked about earlier with Bryce Young, 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the only scoring that the Panthers did today. Adam Thielen trying his best to look like his old self there. 5 catches, 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tampa Bay blows out the Panthers 48-14. Tampa Bay looks like they're in the driver's seat for that division at this point.
Yeah, I do not know exactly. That game is tonight with the Atlanta Falcons. I really, when they're on. And it feels like there was a point where Tampa lost a couple receivers. I believe it was right around mid-season, the Ravens game. They lost a couple guys, but now they are now they're in control again. It seems like they are going to go ahead and wrap up that 4th seed, but they are going to get either the Lions or the Vikings, probably if they're the 4th seed in that first round. So it might be short-lived here, Jess.
Yeah, Baker is really found a home in Tampa, and I think they're going to probably stick with him for the foreseeable future. Things are starting to come together for him. Like they're just a few pieces away from really, putting forth a real. I don't want to say dominant, but let's say dominant just to say it. Let's say dominant together. A dominant run in the future. I think this year things may not work out for them, but I like what I'm seeing. They're putting things in place.
All right, let's go ahead and get your Zach Bond stats out, because this is, if you're not used to the show, this is where our good friend Aiden Reed likes to wax the car of linebacker number 53, Zach Bond of the Eagles. Eagles 41, Cowboys 7. Kenny Pickett goes out of this game, but he did a little bit of tush pushing himself for the 13-3 Eagles.
Well, I'd be remiss if I did not mention Zach Bond's stats, so I will give them to you right here. 7 total tackles, 1 solo, and 1 pass deflected. Aiden Reed, that is for you, my friend. Hope you're well. But and the song is for you as well. Let's go. But yeah, like you said, the Eagles took care of business against the Dallas Cowboys there. They got things started off, I believe, with a pick 6, if I'm not mistaken, against Cooper Rush there. But Kenny Pickett, before he had to exit with an injury, 143 yards passing and 1 touchdown. Rushing wise, I believe he had 3 carries, 3 yards, 1 touchdown there. The real rushing that we want to talk about is Saquon Barkley, 31 carries, 167 yards, cracking the 2K record today in 16 games, which is phenomenal to see. He is closing in on Eric Dickerson's record. Whether he'll get it or not is going to be fascinating to watch for next week if they're going to play him at all. Again, the interesting part with the Eagles is seeing if Jalen Hurts is going to be able to come back as well for the playoffs. On the Cowboys side, the backups did what they could. Cooper Rush, 147 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Rico Dowd had a pretty decent day for no touchdowns, but 23 carries, 104 yards. And then there was nothing much to talk about on the receiving end. But Philadelphia wraps up a 13-3 record at this point. Dallas falls to 7-9.
All right, I've got to break down the fourth wall here and just mention that I did not hear that soundbite, but we can't have the sound bites on YouTube right now because if they're licensed, they will they'll come get
there was
me.
no soundbite. I made that noise with my mouth.
Well, you are a rap master, and I know that. So you're the human beatbox. So I appreciate that. But just wanted to go ahead and bring that out there because I love sound bites. I just forgot where we were for a second.
I love sound bites. Hate litigation.
We do have fun on this show. I hope if you're listening to this for the first time, you check us out on the NFL affiliate because we talk about every single team and we have a great time doing it. It's I've never had a Patriots fan that I liked. And now I have one that's one of my closest buddies.
Jeez,
and
I'm tired. I didn't even do anything.
I'm complimenting you, Hogan.
It's all right. I don't really like Patriots fans anyway, just the ones that listen to my show. So that's all.
Jess, Saquon is just off the charts wonderful. I mean, what he went through in Hard Knocks in the offseason that was highlighted on Hard Knocks, and then you're seeing what he's doing now. Does it take any shine off it if he breaks Eric Dickerson's record in one just even though he's playing one more game? That's a 40-year-old record. Does that take any shine off it for you? Does not for me.
No, a record's a record, and if you own it, I mean, it's yours. Like, who cares? What led up to you, falling into place to be able to do that in an 18th game, or 18th week of the season, I should say. Yeah, I think it's a substantial achievement, and I remember when Adrian Peterson came within a dozen yards, right? It was like 12 to 19 yards, something like that, and it's a different game than it was when Eric Dickerson played. So yeah, there's always going to be different circumstances, and so either you get the record or you don't. So you might as well go ahead and get it.
I think really quickly that the appreciation is more substantial for the older records at that point. Cause like you touched on with Mike Ditka, his record held since 1961, you said, right? For his tight end record there. It just means more for those guys that held the record when they did it with less games and in the era that they played in. I just wanted to throw that in there.
And I like that you said that. And it was interesting to say about Brock Bowers. He did it in 16 games and he broke Laporta's record that last year, what 3 weeks ago? It was just incredible. So he broke some records in 14 games. So nothing takes the shine off it, but I grew up in the baseball days of 60 and 61 and asterisks. So I just wanted to ask about that because there's some people that think that a 1,000 game season, a 1,000 yard season does not mean as much. 1,000 game season, man, you'd be beat up there.
I think we could do it. Let's do it. 1,000 games in a season.
What could Brock Bowers do in 1,000 games?
Think of the content we could create.
Yeah, I tell you what, we would break download records and we would not care about the asterisk, I guess. So I think that answers that question. Let's go on to the game of the week. You know what we're talking about here. It's Dolphins 20, Browns 3.
Oh, you got me with that one. I was getting ready all hyped up to talk about the Packers and Vikings. You threw a curveball my way. All right, if we got to talk about them, we'll talk about the Miami Dolphins taking care of business, like you said, 20-3 against the Cleveland Browns. This was no Tua today, so we had the Tyler Huntley show, and he took care of business. 225 yards passing, 1 touchdown. On the receiving side, Tyreek Hill is back to his old self somewhat. 9 catches, 105 yards. That is, again, without Jalen Waddle. And then I believe Devon Achane did not have himself a day. 10 carries and 25 yards. That was abysmal, to say the least. But on the Brown side, DTR did not do too well there. 170 yards and an interception. rushing wise. They really couldn't get anything going on the ground. I believe Jerome Ford left the game early, but was able to come back due to an injury. But Jerry Jeudy did a little bit of okayness, 12 catches, 94 yards there for the Browns. They fall to 3-13. Miami 8-8. And I think they're still vying for a playoff spot, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Just does this team surprise you though? This Miami Dolphins team. The reason I'm asking, because it seemed when they got guys back after their injuries that they would have done a whole lot better than 8-8.
Yeah, I whereas like I've the other team that you asked me about earlier, I've already forgotten because we've talked about just about all of them. They're putting the pieces in place to build on. Oh, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to build to the future. I don't necessarily see that with Miami. I don't think that Tua is a long-term solution just because of the concussion thing. Like it's so frightening. Like I bring that up every week, and it's just it doesn't seem to me like it's wise to build around someone who is so fragile. And so I don't know. I see this as kind of fool's gold. I mean, to be 8-8 going into the last game of the season, I mean, that's a good season, especially considering all that they've gone through with Tyreek Hill getting arrested and the injuries and everything. But I don't necessarily see them as legitimate. Is that fair?
That is absolutely fair. Let's go ahead and talk about probably the game of the week. Vikings 27, Packers 25. It was not this close a good bit of the game, but it was a barn burner at the end, Hogan.
Yeah, this was one of the games that you could, not watch the first, I would say, 50 minutes. And then if you turned on the last 10 minutes, it was phenomenal football. Well, that being if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan. Green Bay coming up just short at the very end there. But Minnesota, I mean, they are dangerous. They could be one of the best teams in the NFC at this point. Sam Darnold, 377 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Nothing much on the ground game there, but through the air, Justin Jefferson gets it done again. 8 catches, 92 yards. Jalen Naylor coming kind of out of nowhere. 5 catches, 81 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Addison adding another touchdown as well. Green Bay did no scoring whatsoever until pretty much the third and fourth quarter there. Jordan Love, not a great day by his standards, 185 yards and a touchdown. Josh Jacobs, 17 carries, 69 yards and a touchdown. Romeo Doubs there getting 7 catches and 58 yards. They just were kind of all over the place, but they did everything they could to get back in the game there and just came up a little bit short where time ran out.
Just right now, the Packers are the 6th seed. The Lions, because they have not played yet, are considered the 5th seed. That will change tomorrow night. But the Packers, they proved that they're a good team, but the Vikings and Lions are on another plane. Who do you think is the best team in this division after watching this game today?
I still think it's the Lions. They've just got too many playmakers. I mean, yeah, David Montgomery got injured, but they're so explosive and so dangerous with Jared Goff. And that's not to take anything away from the Vikings and what they did today, or even the Packers and their near comeback attempt. This is probably the most formidable division in the NFL right now, and it's going to be really exciting to see it play out in the playoffs when they start going up against each other again. So
next week is going to be absolutely fantastic. I don't know if that's a protected game or if that is going to be on Sunday Night Football. We should be seeing the schedule coming out, I would probably think, after the Sunday night game. So by the time you're listening to it, it may be out as we are recording this on Sunday night before that Falcons Commanders game is over. Let's go ahead and take a look at the updated playoff picture. In the AFC, it's the Chiefs at number 1, and they will hold on to that. They have clinched that first week bye in the playoffs. They are number 1. They go ahead and have the Broncos next week. We'll talk about that in a second. That's a very important game. Bills are at number 2. They are not moving from that position either. The Ravens right now are at number 3. They would have to lose to the Browns, have the Steelers, who are at number 5, beat the Bengals for that to go ahead and change. At number 4, the Houston Texans, they are in pretty good shape right there for that division crown. It looks like, if I'm not mistaken, they did go ahead and wrap up that division today. They are first in the AFC South. They have secured that bye because the Colts are no longer in it. The Houston Texans are at 9-7. The Steelers at 10-6. We already talked about them. The Chargers are at 10-6, but courtesy of a head-to-head loss to the Steelers, they are right now behind them. So are the Broncos. Right now, the Broncos are currently in the number 7 spot, but they have to win next week. Should they lose and the Bengals win, the Bengals will take that spot. The Dolphins are currently ahead of the Bengals on that bubble as well. And the Dolphins have an interesting game next week because they are taking on the New York Jets. That's what we're looking at. 9 teams, 7 spots, 6 spots are taken. There's 1 team left, 1 spot left. It's the Dolphins, Bengals, and the Broncos right now have a 54% playoff probability chance. The Dolphins' probability is at 31%. The Bengals are at 15%. Let's go ahead and look at the NFC. It's really hard to do this playoff picture right now since the Lions have not played yet, but the Vikings are currently number 1. We're just going to go ahead and say that the Vikings and Lions, one of them will be the number 1 seed, one of them will be the number 5 seed. The Eagles right now are at 13-3. They cannot get the number 1 seed because even if those 2 teams tie, they will be ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles are firmly in that number 2 spot. It looks like the Packers right now are at number 6 with a more than 99%, but not 100% chance. It's the Rams. They can go ahead and wrap up the division with a win next week. They are at 10-6. The Buccaneers right now are at 9-7. And the Commanders are at 10-5. In the hunt, the Seahawks and the Falcons as well. We will see what the Falcons and the Commanders do. That could go ahead. If the Falcons beat the Commanders, that could give the Rams the possibility of clinching a spot as well. The Rams do not have to win the division to go ahead and make the playoffs. Now's time where we go ahead. Gentlemen, we have our team of the week. I'm going to start with Just Plays.
Oh, I'm going to go with, I don't know. I'm still upset about the stupid Bengals. The team of the week, let's go with Baltimore. Just that it was a statement win. I mean, 31-2 over the Texans. I think that was probably the most lopsided and impressive win of the week, and a week full of lopsided wins. I just think that they put forth a great effort, and I would like to acknowledge them for it. Sorry.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I think that is a very good candidate. You're going to be shocked when I go ahead and do the same thing to you that you just did to me. But go ahead, Hogan. Who's your team of the week?
It pains me to say this because I despise both of these teams back when the Manning brothers played for them equally. And that is obviously the New York Giants and the Indianapolis Colts. So I got to go with the Giants. It's absolutely incredible where everybody, I think, on the planet had them locked up for the number 1 pick going into next year. And the fact that they came out and put up 45 points today and got a win when not many people picked them to do so. They wanted to play. They wanted to win, and they got it. And I thank them for that. But at the same time, I still hate the Giants. So they're my team of the week, though.
I have to do exactly what Jess did to me, and it's not because he did it. This was already set in stone. I'm going to give it to the Kansas City Chiefs because they took it to my Steelers on Wednesday. They were very good. Like I said earlier in the show, that the Steelers were in every single game that they lost. They really weren't in this game, especially after the touchdown in the first quarter was called back. It seemed like they were never in that game after that. The Chiefs, they erased a lot of doubts because there's so many doubters on the Kansas City Chiefs who only have one loss in this league. So it's really interesting to me that everybody's trying to count them out. And what we're doing by doing that is we're giving Patrick Mahomes and that team fuel. And maybe we should stop counting them out. But I've got to go ahead and give them my team of the week, and that hurts too. I think all of us didn't love doing this, especially Jess. 2013 probably sticks in your craw too with the Ravens. Who was it? Raheem Moore who blew that?
Yep.
All right.
A lot of people forget though that Peyton Manning threw an interception after that, but that's like the moment everyone.
We all blame Raheem Moore. Okay,
nightmares. So.
I get that, and I'm sorry, I'm just doing that because it's not fair for me to break open old wounds, Jess. So I'm only going to do it one more time. As tomorrow is December 30th, and if you don't know what December 30th is, to me, it's going to be the 40th anniversary of one of my favorite games of all time. I was 12 years old watching the Steelers, who just eked into the playoffs at 9-7. And did not really deserve to be in the playoffs. A lot of things had to happen for them to get in. They got in. They took on the Denver Broncos, who were 13-3. They called themselves Rodney's Rejects at the time. They had a young John Elway. They were a fantastic team. A lot of people thought they were going to the Super Bowl. A lot of people thought they would be winning the Super Bowl. But what happened? The Pittsburgh Steelers, Walter Abercrombie, Frank Pollard, and Mark Malone helped shock the world, along with Lewis Lips and John Stallworth too. It was one of my favorite games of all time. I watched it again recently. I just have a lot of fun with that game. I know, Jess, I love you, buddy, but I had to bring up the 40th anniversary of the Rodney's Reject game.
Hey, anytime I can think of the 80s and the level of football that the Broncos were putting out during that time, that's a good time. I mean, this last decade has been rough. So anytime you want to take me down memory lane to the 80s, let's go. I'm with you, man.
All right. So let's go ahead and get ready to get on out of here. We got to thank everybody. And if you enjoyed this show, thank you so much. We really appreciate you hanging out with us. Check out our NFL affiliate. There's a lot of great shows on our NFL affiliate. And if you are only watching YouTube, then you're missing out on a lot of shows on the Fans First Sports Network, whether it be the Steel Curtain Network, whether it be Mile High Broncos, whether it be Foxborough Frenzy, whether it be the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast Network, whether it be the Los Angeles Rams Podcast Network, whether it be the Jacksonville Jaguars as well, because I produce those shows. I have to give them a plug. There are so many other great affiliates, and we're always looking to have great affiliates. So if you know somebody that has a podcast that has had success with their podcast, but don't have an affiliate at home, let us know, because we would love to reach out to them and talk to them. That's how we found Mr. Nick Hogan and Foxborough Frenzy as well. And a great, a great addition to our network. So thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate you. Jess Hogan, any final thoughts? Start with you, Jess.
Just need the Broncos to take care of business next week, or I'm going to be a very sad Bronco fan going into the offseason.
Hogan, what kind of business do you want to be taken care of next week?
Go Buffalo Bills. Go Bills. That is the only time you're going to hear me say that, but go Bills, baby.
You want Travis Hunter?
I don't want Travis Hunter. I just don't want the Patriots to screw up the first overall pick, which they probably will.
Well, I don't think they're taking an offensive line. Well, we'll talk about that another time.
That's baby. Trade.
Oh, you want that big trade. All right, here we go. It's time for us to get out of here. And if you haven't listened to the show before, you're going to hear us do it like we do to get out of all of these shows. It's simple. It's 2 words. Gentlemen, as always, go football.
Go football.